Hello, guys. Welcome back. I know it's been a while, but since the return of the UCL, we are decided to do a Champions League edition of the podcast because, the Prem is interesting, but I think the Champions League is really like the pinnacle of club football. So we just wanted to talk about the match week 7 and what we see happening here going into the final match week of the Champions League stage.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting games in this, so we decided to just hop in and do a podcast on this for the week. Next week we'll probably also do the final week of Champions League, just because it is the final week, so we can discuss the bracket in the future. But yeah, let's get right into it.
Shut up, you soppy wanker!
Yeah, I think our top geezer of the week has to be Rafinha, both for his performance in the Barca Benfica game. He had a brace, but more specifically for his 96-minute winner to complete the comeback. I mean, this
Yeah,
was a huge win for Barcelona, keeping him in second place and a chance to get the number one.
but let's talk about the wanker of the week here. I, Coming from the same game too, we have Szczesny, bro. The Barca goalkeeper, bro. I honestly don't know what the hell he was doing on that play, bro. He took out his own defender, bro. Um, I think we get into that also later on in the video. But yeah, it was just a horrid. The first two goals that Barca let up were just horrid. It was just his fault, man. I just don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
say, bro. That is definitely the worst moment I saw of the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that game was just, considering it had both moments from the week, it's probably the game of the week, I'd say. But
100%,
uh,
100%.
yeah, let's just get right into these match recaps here.
Let's go!
All right, getting right into the match recaps. We'll start off with our first game. Fletcher, you're the Liverpool fan here, of course. We know. How did you feel about this game? The 2-1 victory, versus Lille. Goals by Salah and Harvey Elliott. What did you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the final score, it was a pretty close game. I think it was a lot closer than it should have been because I think Liverpool were clearly the better team throughout these
Oh yeah,
games
for sure.
or throughout the game. And yeah, I'm really impressed with how Liverpool played. I was kind of worried because they've been in a little bit of a slump in the Prem recently that would carry over to the Champions League, but they were able to maintain their form in that competition, still undefeated, 7 for 7.
Yeah.
And going into the final match week, I think all they need is a draw to secure the number one seed.
All right.
So,
All right.
um,
Yeah, this game, honestly, I thought Liverpool, they could have easily put 4 or 5 past Lille here. They played much better than Lille. I guess the scoreline didn't really show it, but on the ball they were much better. They had majority of the possession the entire time. Um, I really liked what I saw from Liverpool, even though the
mhm.
scoreline may have not showed it. They've only conceded 2 goals in the Champions League this year,
Yeah,
so like
that's insane.
I don't really. Do you see any serious problems in the squad? Like, I think this is just like the squad is low key just complete. Like,
Uh,
I don't
I
know.
mean,
They,
yeah,
yeah, go on,
I
go on.
do think I do think, the main issue that we've been talking about all year has been the depth. I feel like, I mean,
Mm,
Liverpool has never just been a deep team, and it's hurt them in the past when they've had injury problems. And I think there's positions like left back and even striker that I think could be improved upon,
mm-hmm,
or we need a little bit of better performances. But overall, I do think Liverpool still are the best team in Europe right now,
for
and I
sure.
do see them uh, getting the number one seed. I do see them beating PSV next week, so I'm not really too concerned with them at the moment. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, who they play in the round of 16 when we get there.
Yeah. Um.
But I mean, there's not really
Yeah.
too much to talk about Liverpool. I feel like it's kind of the same story we've been saying all year. So
Yeah. Um. My main thing would just be for Liverpool is just they need to avoid injuries.
yeah.
Like there are some defensive issues, particularly with like maybe Robertson if his age is showing.
Hmm.
But I think injuries are like what Slot needs to focus on. Because this Liverpool team is very dangerous. Barcelona, I think, is probably second to them. Um, but I think Liverpool is a more complete team out of the two.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think too when it comes to, I mean, we could just get right into Barca too now.
Mm-hmm.
The Barca Benfica game. I'm going to be completely honest when it comes to Barca. I do not think they are the second best team in Europe.
Really?
Um,
Okay. Okay.
I do not think they're as good as their Champions League standing is.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, let's just talk about this game.
yeah.
We had a first half hat trick from Pavlidis, from Benfica, which was insane. The defending was horrendous from them. And we did talk about the Barca goalkeeper having those two mistakes at the start of the game, which cost him the first two goals. But honestly, this is probably the match of the week, probably. In
I
what did you
for
think?
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, this game was just insane back and forth. I mean, yeah, the Pavlidis hat trick. You had two penalties from Lewandowski that he scored.
yeah.
Own goal. You had a brace from Rafinha. You had Eric Garcia scoring a goal. I mean,
This is complete. This game is complete, man.
yeah.
Let's talk about that one Rafinha goal. I don't know if you saw it, but the Benfica goalkeeper was trying to clear the ball. Like it was a goal kick. He launches it, and Rafinha's outside of the box, mind you. Hits him in the face, and it somehow goes into the net. How
Yeah.
the hell does that happen?
I mean, this game, I mean, it kind of evened out because the first two goals for Benfica were kind of off mistakes.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, I mean, this game, it was an entertaining game. It wasn't the best played game,
no.
I would say. I don't think either of these teams played actually well,
Let's
if
talk
I'm being
about
honest.
let's talk about the man of the match. Rafinha. What do we like what we're seeing from him? I really do.
I do.
He is a
Yeah.
Ballon d'Or contender this year for sure. It's
Hmm.
crazy that he was playing at Leeds, like not like maybe like 2 or 3 years ago.
Hmm.
He's exactly what Barcelona needed on that wing. What they had Dembele for, but never came to fruition with him. But yeah, I really love watching Rafinha play.
No, I agree. I think for me, he's probably second in the Ballon d'Or rankings right now, behind Salah.
Yep.
And I mean, the Ballon d'Or is kind of a stupid award in my opinion because it's really just going to come down to whoever wins the Champions League. But
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
yeah,
Um,
I think the issue with Barca is not their attack.
it's
I will say.
yeah, that was another point that we want to touch on here. What happened to their defense? What happened to that high line that we saw earlier in the year? That high line that was catching so many teams offside and so many teams out of a place. Like, what happened?
Well, I mean, the high line, it's just such a risky like strategy to use, and I mean, they rely on a lot of young players. I think
Yeah.
a lot of guys from the academy who are immensely talented, but are definitely prone to making mistakes. I think
Mm-hmm.
we've seen that all year. They've dropped a lot of games that they should have won in La
Yeah,
Liga this year,
for
and
sure.
that's honestly my problem with Barca, and why I said they're over. I think talent wise, like any given day they could play just as good as any team in Europe,
Yeah,
but I don't think this team has the consistency to where I don't think I would bet on this team going all the way because I don't think they can consistently outplay big teams, which they're going to have to do if they want to
for
make a run.
sure. Um, yeah, if we're looking at Hansi Flick here, he, I don't see him moving on from the high line that he plays, just because he's never done it in the past either.
Hmm.
We look back at his days with Bayern. He used the same tactics. They worked, but he used the same tactics during the Germany stint, and they were it was an absolute horror with him using the high line in
Yeah,
Germany. The same issues are showing up again with Barcelona now. Where you'd see Benfica just exploit the diagonal or the over the top, and then just get behind the Barca line and just score. So I don't know. Like Flick, is it time for Flick to maybe change what he's used to been doing in his career, or should he keep staying with the high line and just trust in the
I think
squad?
I think you have to stay with the high line at this point, especially mid-season. And since that has always been his thing, coaching wise, like I just feel like making a drastic change like that could kind of be a disaster.
Mm,
But and the high line has worked at times.
yeah.
I mean, you remember the Madrid game from
Mm-hmm.
earlier this year.
Yeah.
So it's not like I said, this team is talented and good enough to beat any team.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this team is more like 1 or 2 years away from actually making a serious run in the Champions League,
Yeah. Okay.
or really being like true contenders. I mean, obviously they're contenders; they're in second, but
Yeah.
I don't think they're as good as their record shows.
Yeah. We know that they're in second in UCL, but let's talk about La Liga also. They're now sitting in third place, which is
A
crazy
distant
because
third as well.
yeah, that's crazy that they dropped off that much for Atletico and Real Madrid to kind of just take in all that space. Um, they have one win in their last 5 games in La Liga, so honestly, like, what do you think is going on wrong here?
Um, Again, I think it's hard to put in consistent performances when you play with such a high line and such like an aggressive style like that. I mean, I've seen that from the Klopp era in Liverpool
Hmm.
with the way they played that high press style.
Yeah,
Um, it's just hard to get consistent results like that. And I do feel like they are honestly. I do think Real Madrid is the better team than Barca. I'll say that, even though
the
there's a
score
huge
lines.
gap between them in the UCL.
Hmm.
And I do think Atletico is probably. I mean, we'll get to them later too. I think they're probably my sleeper team too
Yeah,
to make a
Atletico's good.
run.
Yeah, honestly, in La Liga, I think that Hansi Flick basically it would take time for him to kind of like become more set with the new league.
Mhm.
Um, you have more teams playing low blocks in La Liga
Yeah.
that he did in his previous managerial positions. But
Hmm.
like, let's look at the Getafe game, 1-1. Getafe plays terrorist football. They have 10 in the back at all times. Um, but like, honestly, what I noticed from that game is that there's no space for any of the wingers. So
Hmm.
That Barca attack can't function without that space. So they need to figure out how to break down those low block teams in La Liga if they actually want to make a run in La Liga also. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it once again just goes back to the point that like even Real Madrid having a bad season, they could still beat Barcelona out here in La Liga.
Yeah. I completely agree. All right. So should we get into Real Madrid then?
Yeah, speaking of Real Madrid now, statement 5-1 win against the slipping Salzburg side. We had goals from Rodrigo, Mbappe, Vinny, everything. Um, yeah, I don't know. They're sitting at 16th place now. Um, let's talk about Mbappe. What is he back? Is the Mbappe that we know back?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I'd like to see it against a stronger side.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't really have too much to say from this game. I mean, this is exactly what everyone thought was going to happen
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Salzburg, but they're not,
Yeah.
the most formidable opponent.
Yeah,
Um,
talking about let's talk about like the all the injuries here, right? So Real Madrid, they didn't bring a single right back to this game because of course Lucas Vasquez was injured, so they were playing Valverde at right back. Um, honestly, Valverde is pretty good at right back. But let's talk about Raul Asensio. He's been an up and coming center back. Came out of nowhere from the academy, which is something that you haven't seen a lot of from Real Madrid. Do you like what you've been seeing from him?
I do actually quite a bit, and I think for again, like Madrid, it's not they're kind of infamously known for not really having a ton of academy players
Yeah.
contribute to the senior team,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think this is a player that I really could see a future at Madrid. He's been much better than you would expect him to be,
Yeah.
and again, with the injuries that Madrid have had this year, having guys like that step up is really important. So
Yeah. This game was just basically just a blowout, like exactly what you thought it would be. Vinny Jr. coming onto the score sheet. Rodrigo coming onto the score sheet. Do you think Rodrigo is more of an underrated player on this team now? Like now that with all the stars that are like ahead of him?
Completely. And I do think at some point Rodrigo is probably going to move on from Madrid,
Mm-hmm.
just because I think he's way too good to not be starting week in and week out.
Yeah.
And um, he's proved that before. I mean, he was a key player to their last two Champions League runs.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just getting into La Liga, they're back in first place right now. I think Atletico does have a game in hand, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, just with how much Madrid has, it seemed like they've been struggling this year. Like in quotation marks, I'd put that they're still in a position to win the La Liga again,
Yeah.
and even in the UCL, even though they're not, they're currently in 16th place, which is obviously not where you'd expect them to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
This team is still one of the favorites in my mind to win the whole thing.
Yeah, their next game is against Brest on Wednesday. Who are
Mhm.
a I think we're gonna have to exploit Brest this week. Um, but yeah, what do you think of this? Do you think it's a win for Real Madrid? They are missing
It's
Vinny
a
Jr. Due to yellow card accumulation here, but I think that's only notable.
Yeah, I mean, Brest, they've kind of been the underdog story of Champions League a little bit, even though they've kind of fallen off. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a massive game. As I'm looking at the table right now, Madrid's in 16th, and they're 1 point behind Brest, who's in 13th.
Yeah.
So if they could beat Brest, probably going to be able to move up a few slots in the standings, which would be huge.
Do you think it's
Um,
possible that they make top eight at all here?
it's
Or
possible. I
it's
mean,
very
they're only.
low?
I mean, Leverkusen's in eighth, and they have
Yeah.
13 points,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
Um,
So, um,
It's
yeah.
it's it's definitely possible.
I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Mbappe, not just in the UCL but also in La Liga here. He's kind of stepping up with all this, with all the Vinny Jr. absences here and there with injuries or suspension or whatever. Mbappe's kind of been stepping up here. He's become more of a clinical finisher here. Something that we haven't seen for a while now since he's been at Real Madrid, but now it seems like he's kind of fitting in. The offense is clicking actually. So yeah, I hope to see Mbappe actually like get back to completely good form like we did with him in the World Cup 2022. But yeah, let's move on to Atletico Madrid winning it late against Leverkusen 2-1. What did you think of this game, Fletcher?
Well, this was the game that I was most looking forward to this week, and it did not disappoint. Two a huge game between two teams in the top eight currently, both
Yeah.
of which I feel could make like a sleeper dark horse run like
Mhm.
deep into this competition. And yeah, Atletico wins it late. There was the first half red card from Barrios,
Um
um,
yeah. Yeah, and Julian
which
Alvarez, yeah.
yeah, and then Julian Alvarez scores at the last kick of the game to win it. Um, I mean, yeah, Atletico. That red card was terrible. I mean, that was just kind of an unexcusable moment in the game. But I think for them to come back and win this game against a really strong Leverkusen side
Yeah.
is just a remarkable performance. And I do think Atletico is my like. I mean, I don't even know if they're a dark horse at this point. They're all the way up into fifth in the UCL.
Yeah.
Um,
They're
so
legit. Atletico is
yeah,
legit.
yeah.
Yeah, talking about this game here, Atletico, in my opinion, they were playing really bad up until
Hmm.
until that red card that they got. It got to the point that like we saw Jeremy Frimpong, he was easily going past the Atletico right back. Galan, Leverkusen was controlling that midfield. Um, it got to the point that the Atleti fans were booing their own players because they couldn't get the ball because it was that bad. And then that red card happened, and I guess Atletico actually showed up with more determination. They had more fight in them. They played much better than Leverkusen did. And then that second half sub for Galan coming off for Renildo, Frimpong was basically just rendered useless in the rest of that game. Um, yeah, I really liked what I saw. This is probably an example of a Diego Simeone masterclass here. I cannot lie. This was a
Hmm.
really good tactical switch here from Atletico. They started winding up Leverkusen multiple times in and out, and then it got to the point that Hincapie got a red card for Leverkusen, and
Yeah.
then yeah, and then that was just game after that. Um,
Hmm.
our real standout performance here would be Julian Alvarez. Let's talk about him. What did Man City lose from him?
Well, I think Julian Alvarez was a top five striker in the world when he was on Man City, even though he was
Mhm.
on the bench. So I'm glad he left so he can get the starting spot here at Atletico. And um, I don't know. I mean, with Man City struggles this year, they could definitely. Although I guess goal scoring hasn't really been their problem. It's more been
Their
on the
defense.
midfield and defensive end. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Julian Alvarez is a phenomenal player. I rate him very highly, and I mean, he's been great this season for Atletico. So,
Yeah, I guess there was concerns at the start of the year and like where he would fit with this team. Because they did get Alexander Sorloth as the big man striker, and then they do have Griezmann. It kind of seems
mhm.
like he kind of fit in with that after the Sorloth injury. He's kind of just fit in, just doing his thing. He's been really good. Let's talk about the goals that he had. They were basically just two through balls just played over the top. Leverkusen just could not get him. Um, he's been class this season. They have Atletico are in second place in La Liga after that defeat to Leganés last week. They have Villarreal this weekend. Do you think they bounce back in La Liga?
I yeah, I mean, I do think so. I mean, Villarreal is a strong opponent for La Liga standards, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think Atletico hopefully gets that win, and I
Yeah,
would like to see a competitive La Liga race this year between
yeah.
Real Madrid and Atletico, and maybe Barca if they could step it up
Mm-hmm.
too.
Let's go on to more of the disappointing teams here. Bayern losing 3-0 to Feyenoord. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, this was a bad. I mean, it wasn't even like a terrible performance on paper from Bayern. I think obviously they lost 3-0, but
Mm-hmm.
they had a lot of control, I felt like, in this game. They had a lot of chances. Um, but I don't know. This was a game that they really needed to win.
Yeah.
Um, because Feyenoord's a strong opponent, but uh, you know, a team like that, if you're Bayern, you have to win those kind of games, and they just haven't been able to do that this year. I mean,
Uh-huh.
they've lost three games in the UCL, which
Yeah.
is pretty shocking from Bayern.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. Do you think Bayern is a legit contender this year?
I personally don't think so. I don't think so. Bayern, in my opinion, I think they'll make it to the round of 16. They'll lose in the round of 16. They'll
Yeah.
play a strong side, whether that be Liverpool, Barca, whoever, and they'll get crushed. I don't like their defense.
Hmm.
Their defense is not very good, in my opinion. Um, Harry Kane has been that goal scoring machine. But I just don't think their defense has been that good. They are first in the Bundesliga right now. I think they're still at top, yeah. Um, but let's talk about Feyenoord here. Are they legit? Is this a legit team here? Coming back from a 3-0 deficit to draw against Man City, and now this 3-0 victory against Bayern. What do you think? Are they legit?
I mean, yeah. I mean, those are two massive results that they've gotten. I don't know if I mean, they're in the 11th currently with
Mm-hmm.
13 points.
Yeah.
I don't know if I consider them like a legit team. Like, I don't see this team making a run, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. I don't think. I mean, it obviously depends on how the bracket shakes out and who they end up drawing against, but I don't see this team necessarily uh, pulling off uh, any crazy upsets or anything. But I meing, this is a obviously having being in 11th currently.
Yeah.
Um, is a phenomenal run of form for them. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't necessarily think they're legit, but they're definitely outperforming expectations.
Santiago Jimenez coming on with the brace against Bayern. What do you think of him? He's a pretty good player. I think that performance kind of attracted a lot of attention over the last week with teams in Italy, particularly AC Milan. What do you think of
Hmm.
him? What do you think of Jimenez?
Yeah, I mean Jimenez is a guy that I honestly wanted Liverpool to sign
Mm-hmm.
a couple of seasons ago, or even this off season.
Yeah.
He's a clinical finisher in my opinion, and I don't think he's like an elite top tier goal scorer, but he could definitely contribute to a
Mm-hmm.
top team. Like I
Yeah.
don't think he could be the necessarily the number one, like most reliable guy,
Yeah.
but he's a phenomenal depth piece. I think for a top team.
Yep. All right. Bayern taking on Slovan Bratislava next week, and Feyenoord is taking on Lille in their next matchup. Do you think
I
Bayern
mean,
bounces back here? They
they
have to. They
better. I
have
mean,
to.
yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at the stats currently right now from this Feyenoord Bayern game. It was 30 shots for Bayern, 6 shots for Feyenoord,
Damn.
80% possession for Bayern.
Wow. Um.
And to just get throttled 3-0 like that is just insane. And I don't know. I didn't really watch this game too much, if I'm being honest. I've only seen the highlights.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think you could say it's a little bit unlucky from Bayern for sure. They definitely should have gotten a result from that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time,
Conceding three
like that's
though.
just a that's
Yeah.
an unacceptable loss when you're playing like that. You can't lose a game when you have 80% possession and have outshot the other team by
Yeah.
5 times, you know.
Yeah. For sure. Moving on now to probably one of the most disappointing matchups in terms of one of these teams. Manchester City losing 4-2 versus PSG. We saw goals from Jack Grealish, which is crazy that he actually did it finally at this stage. What did you think of this game? This game was just something.
Well, going into this week, this was probably the most like impactful game
Yeah.
because it was two giants who were both sitting on the outside looking in. It felt
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah,
so it felt like whoever won this, like this was a must-win game for both teams.
for sure.
So I think Man City not. I mean, Man City not winning this game. They currently sit in 25th.
That
They,
is,
as it stands right now, would be eliminated. They're 2 points behind 24th place Stuttgart, and they're going into the final match week in a must-win position
yeah,
against
this,
Stuttgart, actually.
yeah,
But
we saw
or no, they don't play Stuttgart. No,
they,
sorry, I think
they
that's
play,
PSG. But
they play Club Bruges. They play Club
Club
Bruges.
Bruges, yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about the game here. Man City going up 2-0 with Grealish and Haaland goals here. And then after that, man, the game just got out of hand for them. Dembele,
yeah.
Barcola, João Neves, and then Goncalo Ramos scored. What are we thinking?
I mean, it's kind of been the same. This is kind of the same story we've seen from Man City all year, where they start off well, and it seems like this is kind of the same old Man City team we've seen in the past, and they just have a complete collapse in the second half. I mean, giving up 4 unanswered goals in the second half like that
Yeah.
to a, you know, uh, a mediocre PSG team that
Mm-hmm.
they 100% should have beaten. Um, yeah, I just I don't see even if Man City do make it to make it to the next round, I don't see them making any sort of run at all. I think this team is beyond cooked at the moment.
Yeah. Is this a fall of an empire for City here? Yeah, what do you think?
Uh, mm, I'd say it's more like a empire in decline because I do think this January, I do like the signing, like the Marmoush signing is good. I like that a lot for them.
Mm-hmm. Um,
Um, but
yeah,
I don't think. this Man City team will ever reach the same heights that they've reached before. I don't think they'll um, win any sort of major trophies again.
Yeah.
Or well, okay, I'll say I don't think they're going to win the UCL or the Premier League
Yeah.
um, this year
That's
or probably next year or the coming years because I think
that's
this
fair.
team is so old,
That
and
is
I think with
fair.
the turmoil that they're having with Pep, I don't think Pep is going to be there for much longer.
That's fair.
Um,
Um, speaking of signings, and age, of course. What do you think about this? Like the aging squad here. They weren't replaced in the summer here. The Gundogan signing was very questionable. He's been pretty much ass recently. Kyle Walker's turned into dust. They made no prominent signings in the summer at all. So
mhm.
that aging squad, do you think that's part of what made them so bad this year, considerably?
Uh, yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, they couldn't really make any signings in the summer because of the ongoing legal battle that they're currently in right now.
Yeah.
And I think the aging squad definitely is playing a part.
Hmm.
And I just think they don't really have, and that's why I'm kind of worried about their future is they don't really have guys on that squad. I mean, they have Jeremy Doku, they have Savinho, um, but outside and Guardiola.
Yeah.
Um, but outside of those guys, they don't really have anyone that you look at as being like, oh, that's going to be a great player for years to come.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Holland, obviously, but he's also so reliant on the team around him. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, he
Yeah.
scored against PSG, but this has been his worst season at Man City for sure, and he
Yeah.
hasn't been able to make an impact really, it felt like, at all.
Mm-hmm. Let's just talk about this game again. City dissolved in that second half after those two goals. They had 37% possession in that game. PSG's, I think the main reason for that is that PSG pressing, they were very efficient with it, which is something that we usually see Pep's team doing, which is how they
Hmm.
control the possession. But the City's possession or their pressing was really bad this game. So
Hmm.
that kind of lost them the game, and then also this game could have gone more out of hand. PSG could have scored more than 6 goals, 6 or 7 goals here. They had 2 goals called back, a crossbar. Yeah, it could have easily put 5, 6, 7 goals past Man City here. This was not a good game for Man City by any perspective. Um,
No, it was not.
yeah. This is Guardiola falling off here. There was a questionable substitution he made where he subbed off Matheus Nunes for John Stones right before the Joao Neves goal to put them ahead. Um, yeah, I get that Joao Neves is kind of tiny, like you can't see him, but still, like, just an open man on that free kick. I don't, I don't know what Pep was cooking with that, bro.
Yeah, it almost feels like a lapse in judgment, which we've kind of just seen all the year from Man
Hmm.
City. Like it just seems like honestly, there's just a lack of effort at times
Yeah.
with this team, which you can't really blame on. Like they have the talent to win these games, which is why it's been so shocking that they've been so bad all year.
Uh huh.
Um, and I don't know if it's maybe like they've been so used to winning in the past, or if there's other things going on. I mean, I'm not gonna get into like the personal lives of the player. I mean,
But Pep.
there's yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
stuff going on
Yeah.
that I'm sure are taking a toll and
Yeah.
affecting performances. But
We'll keep this on
yeah,
football.
yeah, I think Man City needs to kind of. I think they just need to stay afloat the rest of the year. They're not making a run in anything right now,
Yeah.
and they just need to. Their goal right now should be to finish in a Champions League spot in the Prem because if they don't do that, then this is a complete disaster of a season.
Yeah. Do you think their new signings will help them with that here? They signed Omar Marmoush from Frankfurt, and then they have Kusanov, who's that the the center back from Lens, and then Victor Rice from Palmeiras. Do we like these signings here?
I like Mormouche as a player a lot,
It
but my
feels
concern
kind of
with him,
odd.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the best fit for him, I would say,
Yeah.
going to because in the Bundesliga, he played very wide, and his
Mhm.
real
Yeah,
strength
for
was
sure.
playing on the counterattack, which
Yep.
is very Bundesliga type
Mhm.
football. And in the Prem, when you have a lot of teams that play low blocks and it's very much like possession based, it seems like, and
Yeah.
relies a lot more on athleticism. I don't
Mhm.
know that he's necessarily going to be a great fit for Man City. I can 100% see him being kind of a disappointment. And
Yeah.
I honestly wish he would have gone somewhere else that would have
Yeah.
fit his play style a little bit better. But I
For
do
sure.
think he is an immensely talented player.
Oh,
So
yep.
we'll see if he can figure it out and adjust his game a little bit.
It
But
it kind of feels like they paid a lot of money for someone who is, for one, older than Julian Alvarez was, and
mhm.
a less well-rounded player, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely not as good as Julian Alvarez.
Um, like, uh, Man City paid a hefty sum for him, and I don't know where he would actually fit in on the team with Holland being the number nine.
Mhm.
Also, what would happen to Savinho, Doku, or like Oscar Bob on the wing if Marmoush comes here?
Yeah,
Would he just kind of fit in
and
that KDB role if KDB's like injured or something? Like, what would he be up to here?
I guess it does. Again, it's just a weird signing because it doesn't seem like he was signed necessarily like for fit. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, their problem hasn't been their attack. Like their attack has
Yeah,
been fine. I
yeah.
feel like most of the year, it's been their
Mm-hmm.
midfield and their defense that it's just been awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't. I think it's a good signing in a vacuum because again I really do rate Marmoush highly and
Yeah.
I think he's a very talented player. But it's not a great signing in the context of what's going on at Man City, and I feel like they could have spent money elsewhere to improve the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Man City, of course, they're sitting at 25th place, right outside of the playoff spot. They play Club Brugge, who are sitting in 20th.
Yeah,
I th- do we think Club Brugge actually puts up a fight against them here? I think they do.
I mean, why not?
This
We've seen pretty
game,
much everyone put up a fight against them this year.
I personally don't see this game being a blowout for Man City because I just don't. I just don't really rate Man
I
City that
yeah,
highly. It'll be a close
I could
game.
I could 100% see anything happening in this game. Like I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Club Brugge even won this game.
Yeah. Let's touch on PSG for a second here. They did get Kavara from Napoli. What do we think of this PSG team? Bradley Barcola is kind of back into form, I guess, after being really bad recently. But they play Stuttgart next week, who are currently in 24th. PSG is in 22nd right now. What do we think of this PSG team? They're very young.
Yeah, it's a young team, and I like a lot of their players,
Hmm.
like potential wise.
Yeah,
And again, I think this is a team that they're in almost a rebuilding phase. It kind of feels
yeah,
this is a team that I could see as a serious threat a couple years down the road. But
yeah,
as of right now, um, obviously disappointing as to where they are in the Champions League.
yeah.
You would have expected a little bit better from them, even with the departures they've had.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think for PSG, if they could beat Stuttgart or at least get a result and secure a spot
It's a
the knockout stage
Yeah, it's a pretty
or whatever we're
convincing.
calling
Yeah,
the
yeah.
or like the playoff phase, is that what
The
it's called?
yeah, the playoffs. Yeah, I think that's what we're calling it. Playoffs.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think if they could do that, I think then they've had a successful run here.
All right. Manchester City taking on Club Brugge next week. PSG taking on Stuttgart next week. Both games are on Wednesday. Let's talk about the overall standings in the Champions League so far. Liverpool, Fletcher.
Yeah, I mean we touched on this at the very start, but they're in first. All they need is a result
Mm-hmm.
or a Barcelona loss, and they secure the number one seed.
Yep.
So
Final
um,
game away at PSV. What are we feeling here?
I'm seeing. Oh, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't win this game
Yep.
just based on everything that's happened. I think it'll be a close game.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking of Liverpool, like maybe like a 1-0 or two
Okay.
one win.
Okay. Let's talk about Bayern and Real Madrid, who are kind of sitting right next to each other in that middle spot. Real Madrid going against Brest, Bayern playing Slovan Bratislava. Um, what are we thinking here? Do we think both these teams come out on top?
I would hope so. I would expect both these teams to come out on top. I mean, the question I feel like, and we've kind of talked about this when we talked about Bayern, is
Mm-hmm.
which of these teams are you more concerned with? Because they're both in a similar spot in the table, but I do feel like, for me at least, it does seem like Bayern is in a much worse position going forward than Real Madrid is.
Yeah. Bayern, of course, they are kind of running the Bundesliga right now. I mean, I think it's so close, but Real Madrid is kind of getting back into their mojo here. Mbappe is coming back into form. I do think that'll play a huge role for the future of that team for Real Madrid. At least I hope so. Um, I think Bayern is in the worst spot here. I think Real Madrid
Yeah,
will be okay. They'll be fine. Um, but Bayern here is kind of worrying me. Even if they do make it past the playoff spot here, whoever they play in the playoffs, I don't know how much further they'll go. I'm thinking a round
yeah,
of
I
16 exit
agree.
for them.
I completely agree.
Um, Manchester City, we just talked about this, but uh, yeah, they're in a must-win position against Club Bruges on the final match day.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah, go
and
on.
then the big storyline going into this final match week is that 8 through 24 on the table are separated by 3 points. So really, any of those teams
Yeah,
could like
good.
jump up significantly or fall off significantly. Like
Yeah,
it's tough to tell. Like we really have no idea what the matchups are going to be
yeah,
um,
for sure.
going into the playoff in the knockout stages.
Yeah, for sure. I'm think this is contrary to what like a lot of people believe about this new UCL format. I'm enjoying this kind of actually. It feels
I am too.
actually entertaining here. With random ass teams kind of coming in and out. Um, but yeah, 8 through 24 being separated by 3 points is kind of wild. So
Hmm.
this match week is going to be very entertaining. It can go either way.
Hmm.
Um, and then lastly, let's talk about Barcelona. They're playing Atalanta. Um, what are we expecting from this? Both two pretty good sides. Atalanta's still a pretty good side, even though they have kind of slipped recently. But I think they did have like a 5-0 win recently in the Champions League. So, what are we seeing from
Hmm.
this game?
Yeah, I mean, I highlighted this as kind of the game that I was looking forward to the most from the upcoming match week.
Yeah.
Is I think Barca, they're currently 4 points ahead of Atalanta right now, who Atalanta's in seventh. Um, and I I really could see this game going either way because I do like both these sides.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess if I had to pick, I would go Barca.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think this will be the closest game from the upcoming match week.
Yeah, for sure. I think that this game will be close. I do think Atalanta will put up a fight, no doubt in that. They have a lot of good players, a lot of talent on that team actually. They are one of the most interesting teams from Italy right now that are playing the Champions League. Other than maybe Inter Milan. Their squad is pretty underrated in my opinion. You have kind of like guys flying underneath the radar going crazy right now. So this will be a
Mm-hmm.
good game. This will be a good game for sure. But
Mm-hmm. 100%.
anyways, guys, we're gonna be moving on to our predictions now. So we'll see you there. All right, guys. We're gonna be starting off with our predictions. Fletcher, do you want to go back, go over our predictions from last week? Or actually, start off with the rules here. Would you like to start off with the rules again, just
Yeah,
to
yeah.
give us a refresher?
So basically, we're gonna do like a parlay style draft here on the upcoming games for the
Mm-hmm.
next Champions League match week.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a snake draft, so I think Varun will go first, and then he'll pick, and then I'll pick two and three, and then he'll do four and five, et cetera, et cetera. And
Mhm.
basically, the goal here is to make a parlay of teams that you're confident are going to win, and you can add as many teams as you want. But
Yeah.
if one of those teams doesn't win, you get 0 points
Mhm.
for the game. So it's kind of a risk reward
Yep.
kind of system. So I
Um.
mean,
Yeah. Let's go
just looking
over.
at our
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah
There you go. There you go. You can go.
yeah, I was gonna say just looking at our last predictions, we both picked four teams, and neither of us ended up getting a perfect parlay here. You were closer than I was,
Yeah.
but I think that's kind of just uh, the strategy of the game is maybe I think taking less teams is the play here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's crazy. Like when we look at our, let's go over our picks from last time. I went first last time with that Liverpool Manchester United game. I remember from
Yeah,
all that long ago. It's surprising to me that that was the one game that I picked that didn't hit out of my four. Because I had
yeah.
Newcastle to win that match week, Nottingham to win that match week, and Man City to win that match week. All three of those
hmm
teams won, but Liverpool drew to Man United. Very disappointing. So that kind of hurts,
And then
man.
yeah, and then I got um, Chelsea and Fulham. I picked them both to win, and they ended up drawing, which is
Yeah.
what cooked my parlay. So I really wasn't even that close, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we're both at 0 points in the scoreboard, guys. So this week, we're going to be doing a Champions League pick for the upcoming match week on Wednesday. Um, So let's go over the games real quick. Just a quick refresher. We have Aston Villa playing Celtic, Barcelona playing Atalanta, Leverkusen playing Sparta Prague, Bayern playing Slovan Bratislava, Dortmund playing Shakhtar Donetsk, Brest playing Real Madrid, Dynamo Zagreb playing Milan, Girona playing Arsenal, Inter versus Monaco, Juventus versus Benfica, Lille versus Feyenoord, Man City versus Club Bruges, PSV versus Liverpool, Salzburg versus Atletico, Sporting versus Bologna, Sturm Graz versus Leipzig, Stuttgart versus PSG, and then Young Boys versus Red Star Belgrade. Um, so I think I went first last time, Fletcher. So you get the first pick here.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna take. Mm, yeah, no, I'm gonna take Bayern versus Slovan Bratislava.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Even though Bayern has struggled a little bit, I would be shocked if they didn't win this game.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. Um, let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Um, I will be taking Atletico Madrid versus Salzburg. I will for my first one. And then I do get the back to back, right?
hmm
So I'll be taking Atletico Madrid to get the W versus Salzburg here. Um, that's a good matchup. Um, and then for my second pick, you know what? I'll pick my team. Real Madrid beats Brest. Um, yeah, we'll go with Real Madrid beats Brest and Atletico Madrid to beat Salzburg for my first two picks here.
Okay.
We'll go with both of the Madrids.
Um, yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, the Real Madrid Brest one, I could definitely like Brest is still a solid team.
Mm-hmm.
They could definitely
For sure.
sell your parlay there. But
Yeah.
okay, looking at the games, um, I'm seeing Arsenal versus Girona is kind of standing out to me a little
That's
bit.
a good one.
Um, ooh, and then I mean Liverpool versus PSV is there as well. Milan versus Dynamo Zagreb.
There's plenty of banger games here.
Yeah, there's a lot. Honestly, there's not a lot of close games now that I'm looking at
Yeah.
it. Um, I think I'm gonna. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna go Leverkusen over Sparta Prague.
I was gonna pick that too.
Yeah, I think that's the safest bet. And then my next pick, I think I'm gonna go. Um, let's go with Arsenal over Girona.
Okay, okay. Um, you know what? Let me see. We'll go. I think Man City is in such a desperate spot here that they smash Club Brugge. Why not?
Really?
Why not? They're desperate here to make the Champions League playoffs. I think Man City gets a win against Club Brugge here. And then um we'll go with, I think this will be my final pick here. I will pick, ooh, I'll take, ooh, okay, okay. I'll take Inter Milan to beat Monaco.
Okay. I don't hate that.
Yeah. We're going with a lot of big boys here. But I think I'll stick with that four leg parlay right here.
I think I'm gonna go with a. Ooh, okay. Well, I'm gonna go four for sure. I'm glad you didn't pick this, but I'm gonna
The
pick
Liverpool?
Liverpool.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I don't know. There's a couple games on here that I'm looking at. I'm like, I could. I like the Milan Dynamo Zagreb game.
I low key think the
And I'm
Leipzig Stormgraz is kind of a slept on game here. I think Leipzig is gonna have a good smash game here.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, Leipzig hasn't been great all year as well, so it's kind of concerning. I mean, I'm even
Mm.
looking at like Aston Villa Celtic
Yeah, I
as a
was looking at
kind of a
that
sleeper
too.
game. I do think though I'm gonna take. Mm, I think I'm gonna take AC Milan over
Okay.
Dynamo Zagreb, and I think
Okay.
that'll probably be
So
my final pick.
okay. So I think, yeah, I'll stick with my four leg parlay, and then you have your five leg.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do a recap here. Fletcher, you gonna tell us your picks?
So I'm taking Bayern to win against Slovan Bratislava, Leverkusen to beat Sparta Prague, Arsenal to beat Girona, Liverpool to beat PSV, and AC Milan to beat Dynamo Zagreb.
Okay, solid, solid. My picks will be, I think Real Madrid will beat Brest. Inter Milan taking the win against Monaco. Man City getting the win against Club Brugge. And then Atletico Madrid smashing Salzburg. So
Okay.
if we both get ours right, Fletcher will have 5 points because of his five leg parlay. I will have 4 points. But yeah, hopefully we actually get points on the board here. If not, I don't know what we're gonna do. If we're gonna be stuck at 0 points.
Yes.
Um,
I like we also said that the strategy was going to be to pick less teams, and then we both ended up picking
I mean,
4 and 5.
this is a Champions League edition here. We have to go all out here, man. We
For
can
sure.
go, yeah, we can go smaller ones for the Prem, but yeah, yeah, that's it basically. Thank you for watching this Champions League edition of the WaffleBalling Football Podcast. We'll be back next week for the recaps for these games, actually, for the Champions League. So we'll see you guys there.